Welcome back to Deadline DC with Brad Bannon. In this half hour, our guest is Alex Lawson, who is Executive Director of Social Security Works. Welcome back to Deadline DC, Alex.
It's great to be here.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with this. A lot of Americans, the polls show pretty clearly, are anxious about the economy. And it's not surprising. Prices are continuing to rise. Jobless claims are up. The stock market is down. And you read disturbing stories about the impact of the Trump budget cuts on local areas. For example, I read a story a few days ago about a hospital in Seattle that's laying off 110 employees because of federal cuts in healthcare. USDA is cutting payments to farmers. They're stopping shipments to food banks across the nation, and God knows the impact of these things. And it seems to me that here you have an ideological president who is determined to do, cut government, downsize the federal government, and anybody that gets hurt by it in the fallout be damned. What's your assessment?
I think that's exactly right. I think that, what we're looking at is government by the billionaires, for the billionaires, and everyone else be damned. But I think it's really interesting, this one thing, because I actually watch a lot of financial press. So like CNBC and Bloomberg, that's what I listen to. I like to listen to Wall Street talking to itself often. And there is this remarkable thing happening where people, you start with like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett basically said he's not investing in America. This is like his entire career has been investing in America. And they talk about American exceptionalism in Wall Street terms. That's market exceptionalism. And if you turn on the financial press right now, they are talking about the end of American exceptionalism. And the discussion is, where can people invest because the future is not bright in America? And that is a brand new concept introduced by Trump. And so, it's government by the billionaires, for the billionaires. But even Warren Buffett is nervous, right? And so you got to remember that billionaires, just because Elon Musk is super rich, doesn't mean he's super smart or can predict the future. What you're seeing in the economy is all signs are pointing towards bad. Currently, it's pointing towards something like stagflation, right? Where you have high unemployment and prices continue to go up. And, it does not seem, Donald Trump went on television and said he didn't care. He said it multiple times.
Yeah,
he
I
could
saw
care
that.
less, So I think people are right to be worried that these economic policies are either by design or just because, the only thing overshadowing their arrogance is their ignorance. That when all these policies, these terrible policies sort of combine together, that the outcome is going to be disastrous for the American people.
Now, and probably it's going to get worse this week, Wednesday, probably after the market closes. The Trump administration is going to announce a new round of tariffs increases. And by the way, tariffs are taxes on goods for those of you out there who have to buy stuff, which is pretty much everybody. And my guess is the stock market is not going to react very kindly to that.
Yeah, and I think, I don't judge the economy by the stock market, but even the stock market is going to be doing poorly. The economy is, Donald Trump took over. The economy, it was magically strong, right? So you compared Europe to America post-pandemic. The pandemic caused all sorts of economic hardship all over the world, but the American uh, experience was by far and away the best, right? So we did not retreat into austerity. We invested in people, and we kept an economic collapse from happening. And what you're looking at now is massive austerity, right? So you're looking at cuts, you're looking at contractionary policy. At the same time, some of that contractionary policy is also inflationary, so tariffs specifically. And I'm not against tariffs by all, like across the board. I think tariffs can be very useful when they're strategically levied against people who are waging economic warfare on us. So in the terms of Chinese steel dumping, and there are multiple things where tariffs actually make sense. But the thing with a tariff regime is you work with your allies against your economic opponents, right? You need your allies in on some sort of regime that helps your economy. What Trump is doing, and it's really bizarre, is he's first going after literally our closest trading partners. Like, he has turned our closest ally, Canada. They're such a joke, a close ally, that it's like a joke how close we are, right? And now they hate us. They'll never trust us again. And why should they? Why should they, when the trade policy that's been levied at them makes absolutely no sense? Like, I am all for. I think NAFTA was a bad deal. I think it was a bad deal. I'm all for looking at trade policy from a view that protects American manufacturing and helps American workers. But that's not what Donald Trump is doing. He's got this sort of really chaotic tariff regime that he's putting out there that's effects are disastrous to American workers and American manufacturing. And I think the key distinction here is that he's not working with our allies. It's like the closer an ally you are to our country, the more Trump is trying to punch you in the face, economically and diplomatically, like insulting our allies, threatening our European allies, Greenland, which is it's a protectorate of Denmark, which is an EU country,
NATO ally.
NATO ally, um, uh, with war. Well, are you serious? We're threatening a NATO ally with war. They're going to invoke Article 7 against the United States. Like, what does that look like? Europe is nuclear armed as well. So all of that chaos and uncertainty is the exact recipe for economic disaster. And so at some level, you have to wonder, is Donald Trump trying to cause economic disaster? And why would he do that? And I think maybe, again, ignorance is the only thing overshadowing arrogance. But also, I think maybe there is
Can I
some
use that line
to,
in my next column in the Hill?
of
Oh,
course,
thank you.
um, of course, because it's so true, Brad, that I can't claim ownership of that. That just jumps off of the pages at all of us. So it's remarkable how fast Donald Trump has taken. He was handed one of the strongest economies that the world has ever known. Yes, there were problems with inflation, but that was a global phenomenon, and America was handling it better than anywhere else.
And
And
now it's
he has
getting worse.
Exactly. He's taken every indicator that was flashing green, and now they're all flashing red across the board. And so it's just it is a frightening reality that we live in right now.
I mean, we have, there'll be midterm elections next year. And, God forbid if you're a Republican member in a vulnerable House seat in Michigan with auto tariffs. And, it's just, it boggles the imagination. But, it just seems to me the economy is careening towards chaos. And I mean, I want to get into this in the next segment because unfortunately we're running out of time in this segment. But I'd like to talk about the political repercussions when we get back. This is Deadline DC with Brad Bannon. My guest in this half hour is Alex Lawson, who's the Executive Director of Social Security Works. We're talking about Trump chaos in the economy. And when we get back from our break to give our radio listeners a breather, we'll talk more with Alex about Social Security and Medicare. Welcome back to Deadline DC with Brad Bannon. Our guest in this half hour is Alex Lawson, who is the Executive Director of Social Security Works. Alex, I wanted to ask you about the political repercussions of what I would describe as Trump's erratic handling of the economy. One day there are tariffs, the next day they're off, they're back again. This is no way to run an economy, in my opinion, but then no one in the White House currently has asked me my opinion. There's going to be a day of protest on April 5th, which I guess is Friday, across the country. Do you think these protests have impact? I don't guess that the Trump administration cares much about them, but do you think these national protests will have any political repercussions?
Yeah, so Saturday, April
Saturday,
5th,
excuse me. Okay.
it's definitely so. The protests and rallies are definitely aimed at the White House, but they're more aimed at communicating to the American people, and we're involved in them with our Hands Off Social Security campaign. You can see it at handsoffsocialsecurity.org. There's now over 1,000 protests, rallies, events around the country, hundreds of thousands of people standing up and saying no to all of the disastrous policies of the Trump administration. And I think that it's mainly aimed at the millions of Americans who are scared right now, to show them that they're not alone, right? That there is fight back. And it's not going to come from the politicians. There's no cavalry coming to stop the destruction of Social Security. It's up to us to stop the destruction of Social Security. And we're going to do that by raising our voices together. And yes, there are electoral consequences of that, because it's a message directly to the politicians in those districts. 1,000 protests across the country. Let's just zoom in on the 17 frontline Republican districts. These are the most vulnerable House Republican districts, and would swamp their majority, right? Their majority is maybe around 3-ish, depending on different elections, 1 to 3. 17 incredibly close toss-up seats. And in each of those seats, the people who would lose health care if the Republicans pass their budget plan, their reconciliation plan, dwarfs the amount of votes that they won by. In Iowa's first district, Miller Meeks won by 800 votes, 700 or 800 votes. And the people who would lose healthcare is 59,000 people in her district would lose healthcare. So there's going to be obvious political ramifications. But Brad, I think the more important thing is a cultural understanding that the people are standing up together and saying no to Donald Trump's erratic
Alex,
economic
we're going to have to
behavior.
leave it on that note. We got to take a very brief break here to bring back our radio listeners. Our guest on Deadline DC today is Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works. We'll be right back with our radio listeners after this break. So don't go anywhere. We're going to talk with Alex about the battle to save Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. Welcome back to Deadline DC with Brad Bannon. And I want to welcome back our radio listeners. By the way, a note to our radio listeners, if you'd like to watch us as well as listen to us, you can watch us at twitter.com/Brad Bannon, at facebook.com/Deadline DC with Brad Bannon /videos, and on YouTube at youtube.com/at Deadline DC. Alex, let's talk about some specific programs that are under threat. The first White House target is Medicaid. There's going to be a big battle, and somehow the Trump administration has to pay for its tax cuts to plutocrats and aristocrats. And their target is Medicaid funding. Now, my question is, they picked this target because Medicaid funding is targeted at poor people. And they figure, well, what the heck? No one cares about, cutting the life support of poor people with medical problems. What are they? How big are the Medicaid cuts going to be, and are there going to be big Medicaid cuts?
So I think that, we're going to fight them tooth and nail. There's nothing Aristos about these crats. That's a bad joke. But I think that what we're looking at much more is a kleptocracy. It is a bunch of thieves, and they're trying to steal our health care. So I think they wrongly think that the American people are going to go along with their attacks on Medicaid, because they're like, oh, yeah, I think it's, primarily for poor people, and people will be okay with getting rid of Medicaid. I think the Republicans are wildly out of touch, and they don't understand the programs that they're trying to destroy. So Medicaid, largest provider of long-term care in this country. For the vast majority of Americans, it's the only provider of long-term care in this country. 1 in 2 Americans in nursing homes are covered by Medicaid. What happens if you get rid of Medicaid? No more nursing homes, right? So nursing homes can't survive if 1 in 2 of their patients are no longer being paid for. And, we're talking about skilled nursing facilities, people in memory care units, they need 24-hour nursing care, and they're supposed to their families members are going to take care of them. Like, no, of course not. If Medicaid is destroyed, people will die. It's a straight line. And Medicaid cares for seniors, children. Tens of millions of Americans rely on Medicaid. And the Republicans are proposing $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid. So let's be clear about what that means. The destruction of Medicaid. You cut $880 billion out of Medicaid, Medicaid ceases to exist in the form that it is. It will not exist anymore. And that will be harm and death for, I don't know how many people will die. I can't predict. Some people will be able to put a number on it. It's going to be tens of thousands, but millions of people are going to be harmed. And that's how they pay for their handouts to billionaires, right?
Bankers and billionaires.
Bankers and billionaires, and you pay for it by killing seniors in nursing homes and denying medical care, needed medical care to children. The American people are gonna say no to this. They might try, and they might be able to ram it through. They might. The Republicans have shown remarkable unity, much more so than I thought. And it's because they're deathly terrified of Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
Who's
And
handing out big checks in Wisconsin as we speak for tomorrow's special election.
Absolutely. And I think the 3 special elections happening tomorrow, we should keep a close eye on them. They're going to be bellwethers. if in Florida's 6th congressional district where Josh Wheel is running, that's usually a Republican. I think it's an R plus 30, right? This is a deeply Republican district. So just that they're thinking that they're worried is a story in and of itself. And if he wins, every single politician
And the
is
polls
going to be
show he's
taking
very
note.
close to his Republican opponent, Randy Fine, who was a real nutcase too, by the way. That might have something to do with it too. Uh, let me I do want to talk about Medicare before we end our session here. Uh, it seems to me, I saw a Democratic congressman, a video. I think it was on YouTube, and I forget which Democratic House member it was. He tried to call a Social Security office, and he held the line, and they said, well, there might be an hour wait or something, and he just stood there, waiting for someone to answer the phone, and no one ever did. It seems to me that Trump, they can't go after Social Security and cut benefits, I don't think, without, a massive uproar, but they seem to be trying to kill Social Security with a death by 1,000 cuts. They're closing offices, limiting the kinds of people who can call for help, and it seems to me it's a backdoor way of killing Social Security.
It is. So what they're trying to do is the old con, right? They're trying to kneecap the mailman and then complain that the mail is late, and then be like, "Oh, I just so happen to have a cousin in private mail delivery." Like Frank Bisignano, who is the nominated commissioner, his vote is tomorrow. This is a guy who is a monopolist. You can read David Dayen in the American Prospect about this, of a payment processing service. And I'm positive he's going to be like, oh, hey, I could do that, for parts of it. They're trying to privatize. But, the big game that they're hunting is actually to cause enough chaos and carnage. And what I mean by that specifically is benefit checks not going out. And there's already reports of service disruptions currently, and they're just going to get worse. So they create the problem, and then they come in and they're like, oh, well, we just need emergency powers to fix the problem that they caused. Because they can't get their hands on the benefits, as you noted. It's not only without a giant uproar, there will be a giant uproar, but they can't legislatively without 60 votes. So you can't do it through budget reconciliation, which is how they're trying to destroy Medicaid. It requires 60 votes. And so if they cause enough chaos, they'll privatize pieces of it so that their buddies can make money. But then they're going to come back and they're going to say, give us this emergency authority to fix the system. Let us do it with a simple majority in the Senate. And if they are granted that authority, that's how they're going to reach their hands into our pockets and steal our actual benefits, by raising the retirement age or whatever other benefit cut that they want to steal our money. But the vector of attack is exactly as you described. They can't get at our benefits yet, so they want to create that crisis to do so. But what they're attacking is the Social Security Administration, which we also pay for out of our contributions. No one gives us anything with Social Security. We pay for it. It's our money, including paying for the offices, the people working in those offices. They've come through, Elon Musk, with a chainsaw just through the heart of the Social Security Administration, in just wrecking its ability to get the benefits, about $1.5 trillion transferred through the system every year into the hands and bank accounts of the American people. And that's on purpose. And then they go on TV and they say, oh, if my mother-in-law, this is the billionaire commerce secretary, if my mother-in-law didn't get her check, she wouldn't complain. Only fraudsters complain. And Elon Musk said the same thing. Only fraudsters complain. They're trying to soften the American people up to get them ready for not getting the money that they're owed. And they're saying, if you complain about not getting your check, then you're one of the bad guys. We might come after you. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to destroy the administration so that it can't get the checks into the people's hands.
I hate to interrupt you, Alex, but we're out of time. I want to thank our guest today, Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works, and John Bennett, White House correspondent for Congressional Quarterly and Roll Call, and my intrepid executive producer, Mark Grimaldi, who keeps the show running on time and keeps it online. We'll be back soon with more of Deadline DC with Brad Bannon. Miss the shows at your own peril.